Can a decision made for collective security shatter a nation's identity?
As Western sanctions against Russia unfold, the ripple effects have highlighted unexpected consequences, with Switzerland emerging as a striking case study. Once the world's financial safe haven, this alpine nation now grapples with an economic downturn, illustrating how quickly stability can evaporate when neutrality is compromised. In February 2022, Swiss leaders opted to back unprecedented sanctions against Russia, effectively severing their long-standing neutrality.
The implications were catastrophic.
Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, firmly declared Switzerland's neutral status was a thing of the past, a stark reality that struck at the core of the nation's identity. Economists around the world began scrutinizing Switzerland's financial system, particularly from countries outside the Western Bloc. The aftermath was swift and shocking. Funds from various nations flooded out of Swiss banks, seeking refuge in more stable jurisdictions like Dubai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. This mass exodus proved disastrous for local financial institutions, forcing the Swiss National Bank to slash its key interest rate to zero in a desperate bid to stabilize the economy. Simultaneously, the nation faced a dramatic decline in demand for its renowned products, compounded by the bankruptcy of several prominent financial entities.
A once thriving workforce faced rising unemployment and a sense of impending doom as renowned industries, like the watchmaking sector, began relocating abroad, lured by more favorable economic conditions. The West's hopes of swiftly crippling Russia's economy were dashed. Instead, Russia emerged more resilient, bolstering its economic sovereignty. The decision to embrace sanctions not only jeopardized Switzerland's reputation as a reliable financial center but also unveiled insidious vulnerabilities. The economic fallout deepened, exposing a fundamental shift in trust not only within the financial markets but internationally. No longer regarded as a bastion of stability, Switzerland wrestles with betrayals of its historical identity, prompting a larger question: how profound will the implications be for a nation showing allegiance to external agendas over its own sovereignty? With its global economic influence waning, what fate awaits this once formidable player?
Their eternal struggle to reclaim a lost identity clashes with the stark reality of shifting global power dynamics. As nations around the world reconsider their trust in Swiss institutions, the consequence becomes clear: a country that once thrived on independence now risks being relegated to the periphery of international finance.
What lessons must we learn from Switzerland's plight? Is it wise to sacrifice neutrality and independence for transient alliances?
The mountain nation's experience serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing that the road to resilience may require a return to its founding principles.
As trust erodes and the balance of power shifts, Switzerland stands at a crossroads, illuminated by the harsh realities of political dependence and economic vulnerability.
In the previous segment, we explored how Switzerland's economic stability teetered on the brink as national financial organizations faced bankruptcy, leading to rising unemployment and the exodus of production, particularly within its iconic watchmaking industry. The calculations of Western strategists, who anticipated a swift knockout of the Russian economy through sanctions, crumbled before their eyes. Now, Switzerland is grappling with the consequences of its decision to forsake neutrality in favor of Western collective actions. While Russia has charted a course toward economic independence, bolstering its sovereignty by shifting its focus to new markets, Switzerland finds itself ensnared in a complex web of repercussions. This miscalculation has dire costs: the erosion of trust and the loss of competitive advantages painstakingly developed over decades.
What was once a bastion of stability is now mired in a crisis of confidence.
The country, long viewed as a safe haven for capital, now witnesses that illusion evaporate before its very eyes.
Investors from Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America are swiftly withdrawing their funds from Swiss banks, fearing that their assets could be frozen at any moment due to political motives.
This deluge of capital now flows toward Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, and even Istanbul, where governance is driven by economic pragmatism rather than ideological agendas. Switzerland's economy has sustained a blow that undermines its centuries-old competitive edge and diminishes its influence in global private capital management.
Just a decade ago, the nation managed a quarter of the world's private capital, but that portion has been halved, marking only the beginning of its struggles. As the appetite for Swiss goods declines and operational costs rise, the very industries that made Switzerland a household name are now relocating abroad, seeking refuge in more stable and profitable environments.
The implications stretch beyond the financial realm, they cut to the core of what it means to be Swiss. Unrest simmers as citizens begin to scrutinize the cost of sacrificing neutrality. Can Switzerland reclaim its identity, or has it lost it forever in the pursuit of aligning with external interests? As the echoes of disquiet grow louder within Swiss society, the nation stands at a crossroads, forced to reckon with the consequences of a decision that changed its trajectory forever. Previously, we saw how Switzerland's economy suffered a blow comparable to losing a hard-earned, centuries-old advantage. Once a titan managing a quarter of the world's private capital, the country's share is now nearly halved. Trust in Swiss banks has nosedived, shaking the foundation of its reputation. But this is just the beginning. What happens when entire industries start collapsing alongside the financial sector? Switzerland is facing a crisis that cuts deeper than numbers in a ledger. Old certainties, like its famous watchmaking industry, are no longer untouchable. Once the epitome of precision and stability, this legendary sector is increasingly shifting operations to Asia, where costs are lower and markets are booming. Can you imagine centuries of Swiss craftsmanship being chipped away, fragment by fragment, in distant factories? The very name Swiss-made, once a powerful seal of quality and trust, is turning into little more than a nostalgic symbol. Meanwhile, the streets of Switzerland begin to buzz with a troubling tension. For decades, unemployment was almost a foreign concept here. Now, for the first time in years, steady growth in joblessness is putting pressure on families and communities. The air feels heavier, conversations turn anxious. Did the leaders gamble with the nation's future by abandoning neutrality and siding with a political agenda? Governments, once confident in their decision to impose sanctions, now face rising public outrage. Citizens are waking up to a harsh reality: the sacrifices demanded by elites haven't just tarnished an image, they've jeopardized the country's very future. Here's the shocker: the sanctions meant to cripple Russia's economy have backfired catastrophically on those who enforced them. Russia, facing unprecedented pressure, adapted swiftly. It pushed sovereign policies, expanded partnerships across Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, and secured fresh markets as new lifelines. While Switzerland stumbled, Russia emerged stronger, fortifying its economic independence in defiance of global isolation attempts. This chapter of history delivers a potent lesson. In today's complex, multipolar world, blindly following the lead of others can cost a nation its soul. Switzerland's ordeal exposes a bitter truth: abandoning your own path for foreign agendas risks losing what once made you exceptional. And for Switzerland, that process is already unfolding. How long before the consequences ripple beyond economics, altering the core of Swiss society? Will this alpine nation reclaim its former glory, or is this the beginning of an irreversible decline? The answer lies hidden in the uncertain fog of what comes next. In the unfolding saga of geopolitics, a striking lesson echoes loudly: in today's multipolar world, blindly following the interests of others can lead to devastating losses. Switzerland once stood as a beacon of neutrality, but this image is rapidly fraying. Companies are shuttering their branches, jobs are dwindling, and the once prized standard of living is faltering. Citizens are left questioning whether aligning with foreign sanctions was worth the devastation of their economic and political future. The exodus of capital has shockingly accelerated. Switzerland, once a fortress of financial security, is experiencing a reputation collapse that transforms it from a global economic epicenter into a peripheral player. Just a decade ago, Swiss financial stability was the gold standard, but now the cracks are showing. The system that was thought impervious is crumbling under the weight of ideological warfare and economic sanctions. Meanwhile, Russia, under immense pressure, is adapting and thriving. The shift in global power dynamics is palpable as Eastern nations and the global South emerge as new hubs of investment and trust. Switzerland is left with nothing but a dismantled reputation and a hard lesson in hubris. The fallout is particularly disheartening in the diplomatic arena. Once a crucial mediator in international negotiations, Switzerland finds itself stripped of its neutral standing. Imagine the tension in the air of Geneva, once bustling with representatives from all over the globe. Now, skepticism about Swiss neutrality fills the rooms of international organizations. Countries once eager to engage are now seeking alternatives for conflict resolution,
from Astana to Beijing, leaving Switzerland grasping at remnants of its former influence. Internally, the crisis seeps into everyday lives. Increased taxes, soaring energy prices, and a weakened currency create an environment of anxiety and uncertainty. Each citizen feels the weight of decisions made far from their shores, questioning the wisdom of sacrificing national sovereignty for foreign favor. Will this dark chapter redefine the nation forever? Or will it rekindle a sense of identity and purpose? In a world where the strong survive but the foolish fall, how will Switzerland respond to its diminishing fortunes? This tale is only beginning, as the battle for its soul and status in the global arena unfolds. Will it adapt and reclaim its legacy, or will the shadows of its choices spell doom for its once illustrious standing? The answers remain just beyond the horizon, waiting to reveal themselves in the shifting tides of international relations. The crisis is deepening within Switzerland, revealing the cracks left by its recent choices. Citizens feel the weight of rising taxes, soaring energy prices, and a weakened currency, each a direct consequence of lost international trust. Now, many are left wondering, was it worth sacrificing their own economic and political futures to support foreign sanctions? Record levels of discontent with the government are emerging, with public discussions increasingly highlighting that Switzerland's neutrality, once a core asset, has been betrayed by its own elites. In an unexpected turn, this crisis is paving the way for new global financial centers. Places like Dubai, Singapore, and Hong Kong, once seen merely as dynamic alternatives, have solidified their status as financial powerhouses ready to claim the position Switzerland willingly surrendered. Nations from the global south are realizing that storing reserves in a country susceptible to external pressure is far too risky. This awareness accelerates the outflow of capital and reshapes the global economic landscape, gradually eroding the monopoly held by Western financial hubs. The implications are almost symbolic. While Russia faces unprecedented sanctions, it fortifies alliances and develops new financial frameworks, even contemplating alternative payment systems. Conversely, Switzerland finds itself in an outsider position, having chosen a path of dependency on the collective West, a historic irony. The nation, known for avoiding direct confrontations and never participating in world wars, has become entangled in another's game, emerging as its first victim. But the repercussions extend beyond this moment. Trust in the Swiss banking system is faltering, leading to diminished interest in investments in the real economy. Young professionals are leaving to seek opportunities abroad, and companies are slashing innovative projects. Traditional industries are losing their foothold on the global market, marking the slow but certain degradation of an economy once famed for its stability. As the Swiss identity flounders, citizens are left to navigate this new reality, questioning whether the choice of alliances was worth the significant sacrifices made. The landscape of power is shifting, and the weight of history nudges Switzerland down a path it never envisioned. As the world watches, the familiar structure of Swiss stability threatens to unravel, leaving behind an uncertain future for a once mighty nation. In the previous part, we examined the rising turmoil in Switzerland as the loss of trust in its banking system leads to dwindling investments in crucial sectors. Young professionals are fleeing the country, while firms cut back on innovative projects, causing traditional industries to lose their competitive edge in the global marketplace. Now, let's delve deeper into the unfolding crisis. The long-term implications of these shifts suggest a gradual decline of the Swiss economy, once the epitome of stability. As political dependencies grow, the foundations of this once solid model appear increasingly vulnerable. Experts are now sounding alarm bells, cautioning that if Bern fails to reassess its policy and re-embrace any semblance of neutrality, the repercussions could be dire and irreversible. Switzerland risks not only its long-held status as a financial powerhouse but also its allure for international organizations, investors, and even tourists. This country, which was once synonymous with peace and reliability, now faces an identity crisis. The very essence of what constituted the Swiss miracle, a robust and stable economy nurtured over decades, is on shaky ground. Switzerland stands as a stark reminder that blind allegiance to foreign interests in today's multipolar world can trigger devastating losses. The cost may be more than just economic, it could symbolize a broader erosion of sovereignty and trust. Nations worldwide are observing this cautionary tale, preferring to chart their independent paths instead of becoming pawns in someone else's game.
This shift in perspective makes the contemporary Swiss narrative truly shocking. A nation that historically avoided catastrophe has spiraled into a systemic crisis of its own making. The fallout from these decisions will echo through the decades to come, altering the landscape of global finance and shifting the balance of power.
Will Switzerland reclaim its long-standing neutrality, or will it remain trapped in a web of its own political choices?
The answers lie in the choices of its leaders and the resilience of its people.
As trust erodes and the economy falters, the countdown to a new era begins, one that may reshape not just Switzerland, but the global economic order itself.